It's time to wake up with Sonia Poulton, Sonia Poulton, Sonia.
Good morning, Grand Rising to you all. It is Friday, the 28th of February, 2025. It is exactly 9 a.m. GMT. Thank you all for being here. I truly, truly appreciate it. Welcome to Wake Up, the show that recognizes there are many stars in the universe, but none so wonderful as you, our glorious, shimmering viewers. So what's happened since Wednesday? Well, I want to start today's show where Wednesday's show ended. I was told in the comments that statement analyst Peter Hyatt had passed away. As many of you realize, I was absolutely gutted on air. That was the first time I was hearing it. I was deeply sad, but not surprised, because Peter had previously shared with me something about his health that he had not made public. In September last year, he had told people that he had aggressive cancer, but he'd also told me something else. In addition to that, I've never talked about that, and I won't. That said, I now believe that the information may have been incorrect. It seems highly likely, thankfully, that Peter is still with us for now, but I have not been able to confirm his passing, and so I shall wait until I can before I can say some more. But at this stage, I would just like to send prayers out to Peter and his family. And when I'm able to find out how these rumors started, I will deal with them more appropriately. But I have it on good authority that they came from people who are considered very core and central to the Madeleine McCann community. And suffice it to say, I'm not happy. I'm not happy at all, but I am absolutely happy that Peter Hyatt is still apparently with us. Indeed, not at all. Sending prayers, sending prayers. Right, what is on Wake Up? First of all, beautiful people, I have to be out of here as close to 10:30 a.m. as possible because I have to go to a business meeting. And so what's on Wake Up? Solicitor Robin TILBROOK will be joining us at 9:10 on the precedent-setting £425,000 awarded to his client after being a grooming gang victim. Now Robin wants to do more, and he'll be joining us to tell us what. At 9:30 a.m, writer and blogger Sarah NEWLYN will no doubt have plenty to say about the Epstein files and the thug MP, Mike Amesbury, who got away with beating up a constituent. At 10, engineer Peter Cook is looking at the science behind the word truth, and it's fascinating. It truly is. Plus, Starmer at the White House, theatrics with the Epstein files. Come on now. Thug MP treated lightly, as I've already alluded to. The Tate backlash. The strange and curious death of Gene Hackman, his wife, and one of their dogs. And it's Good News Friday. People have been reunited, and that's a wonderful thing. It is. And this weekend marks the first anniversary since student Jack O'Sullivan went missing in Bristol, England. And I'll be joined by his mum, Catherine, on Monday to reflect on that. Yes, how are you? How are you all, people? Yes, Chris, it would appear, thankfully, that Peter is still with us. And I'm devastated that that I was part of passing on that false information. It came to me live from somebody I trust, absolutely trust. But once I started to dig into it, I realized there was a problem. And yes, I am the way, the truth, and the life, says John. Right, but I do have some potentially fantastic news. Oh, I can see that Oh, no, actually, no, I don't know what I'm doing here. I do have some potentially fantastic news. Ashley Hughes and her 3-year-old daughter, Sophie. Remember, Ashley joined us on Wednesday, and Sophie was not getting the treatment she needed for sleep apnea. She had been diagnosed as being critical, and even her own doctor said she should have been treated 2 months ago. Well, What can I say? This is the power of people power, right? You people are incredible. You wrote to your MPs, you tweeted them, you messaged them on social media, all in that brilliant, beautiful, polite way that you did. And I'm so grateful. And we have movement. Oh, yes, we have movement. And I am so thrilled about it. And that is MP Lindsay Hoyle, who is also extremely senior in Parliament. He is the Speaker of the House, and he has finally acted. He's Ashley's MP. He ignored her pleas before she came on Wake Up, but yesterday he wrote directly to the hospitals responsible, and so finally it looks like some action is finally going to take place. Yes, Stephen, on the one hand, you shouldn't have to get a journalist involved to get treatment for your child, but on the other, thank you all so much. Thank you all so much for putting your body to the wheel and getting this moving. It is good to have a good news day. Yes, indeed, Crafty Kim. And I'm so thrilled. And as you can imagine, Ashley she's cautious but delighted because it's amazing. And Sophie's grandmother also tweeted me saying, thank you, Sonia. Sophie is my granddaughter, and it's marvelous what you've done to raise awareness about Sophie's condition in such a short time. But see, that is down to you people. Yes, Lisa, this is fantastic news. So happy. Power of the people. You people did that. You pulled together, and I love you so much for it. Thank you so, so much. People power rules. It does indeed, Armand. Yes, indeed, Peter. Absolutely wonderful news. I'm thrilled with that, actually. I'm absolutely thrilled with that. That is a result. That is a result. I will keep you updated, of course. Now, before I bring in my first guest, I just want to talk briefly about Starmer at the White House. Well, busy times. Starmer at the White House. Did anybody see this? Busy times. Keir Starmer rocked up the White House to meet Trump yesterday to present him with a pre-agreed letter that all the press was already talking about to invite Trump to London for a second state visit. Starmer told us that this was really special. And Trump told us that Charles is a beautiful man, a wonderful man. Trump literally said that baloney. And Starmer read out the invite for the second state visit. He said it's unprecedented. It symbolizes the strength between us. And Charles wants to make it even better. I mean, I don't know about you, but anybody remember the last time that Trump visited us and he walked in front of the Queen and didn't understand protocol at all? Not at all. My favorite part was seeing JD Vance call out Keir Starmer right to his face. Right to his face. It was astonishing. He said, he talked about there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British people, but also American technology companies and American citizens. Starmer said, we've had free speech for a long time. Yeah, we did, mate, until you arrived. And it was actually quite phenomenal. Bootlicking display from Starmer. She is not his queen. Trump balloons. Haven't seen that. Good for Vance. Rachel, it was amazing. It was actually amazing. I mean, basically, Vance said what he had said recently at, I think it was a German conference. No, it was in Munich, a Munich conference. And Vance had the bottle to say it right in front of Keir Starmer. Now, that is what I call politics, decent politics. And Warren Thornton, of course, our friend, geopolitical journalist, has some interesting points about the meeting. He said you will hear a lot of speculation mixed with some truth over the meeting that just took place. It was important that we waited until we had confirmation from excellent sources, both sides of the ponds, before we commented on what happened. Now, we have 5 different sources confirming what took place. Firstly, Trump called Starmer a tough negotiator, and he was not sure if he liked that. In diplomatic circles, this means neither side were willing to budge on their position. And as Warren pointed out, the desperation of offering a state visit and a letter for King Charles will not sway America, removing themselves from the mess they created. Trump's sadness and exasperation at Starmer insisting on carrying on this lost war, of course, in Ukraine, was clear for all to see. And it's just very interesting. Sounded like Trump was sold on a knighthood. Yes, actually, David, Trump should have called out David Lammy about his comments. And of course, there's the issue of the fact that when the election was taking place, Labour politicians were going over to America and trying to intervene and interfere. Outrageous. DJ Darkside Jungle, I covered that crime and policing bill. I started to cover it first a year ago. Coming in this week, this is about police being able to go into your homes without a warrant, seize your electronic devices. Yeah, I've been covering that for a very long time ago. The way he was talking about British boots on the ground in Ukraine, both boots, says Sean, indeed, nuts stuff. It is shocking, some of the stuff they want to bring in. Yes, it is. It is. Still knocking on people's doors over Facebook posts. Stephen, I mean, you're not going to get any arguments from me on that. None at all. I want to bring in my first guest. Really important story here. Let's not waste another moment. Let's bring him in. There he is. And we've got him on mute at the moment. Good morning, Robin. There he is. Good morning, Robin TILBROOK.
Hello. Nice to be here.
Lovely to have you with us. Solicitor Robin TILBROOK. Phenomenal stuff, which I didn't know about literally until you told me yesterday. And that was you were involved with an icebreaker case, which was brought by a grooming gang survivor known as Liz. And that led to convicted rapist Ashgar Boston being hit with a 425k civil claim in the High Court. This is unprecedented, Robin.
Well, it is in a way, because people haven't been bringing these cases against the convicted perpetrators, when in fact it's fairly straightforward to bring a case against a convicted perpetrator, because they're not then allowed in the civil case to argue that they didn't do it. So it's really a question of how much rather than whether something has to be paid. The curious thing, however, is that people haven't brought this, and I gather from the feedback I got after we got the judgment that many girls had in fact been advised that they couldn't bring claims, which is, shall we say, extremely surprising. Because of course they could.
Of course they could, and that's why they need you behind them. And but I think this is a really clear turning point, isn't it? Because I mean, I don't know whether this man does or doesn't have that money, but presumably they can take his house or any of his assets, right?
Yes. So in fact, we are in the process at the moment of applying for a sale of the house, wow. which we'll get.
This is the kind of action that we want to see. So you intend, and you are intending to do much more to essentially pick up where this point left off, and you are attempting to raise £150,000 to apply to the High Court to force the government to open a national statutory inquiry into what we have now become known as grooming gangs. Tell us more, Robin.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We are trying to get a case going in the High Court. We have started the ball rolling by writing to the Secretary of State, which is Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, and the Government Legal Department have acknowledged receipt of that. So they are in the process of preparing their response. The line that we're taking here is, of course, that we, as you rightly say, we want a national statutory inquiry. This is under the Inquiries Act. The thing about a statutory inquiry is that you've then got a judge-led inquiry with all the powers to force people to attend, to give evidence, to answer questions, and to produce documents, which you've seen to I think very good effect in the Horizon post office scandal case, where the judge-led inquiry has led to lots of evidence being uncovered and compelled to be uncovered. The people involved had no choice but to uncover it or to go to prison. That was basically the only choice that was facing them. And even the most senior people were forced to answer questions that they didn't want to answer, and lots of documents were produced. I know that the solicitors involved, or some of the solicitors involved, are already being looked into by the Solicitors Regulation Authority with a view to some sort of sanctions possibly being struck off. And there may well be actual criminal prosecutions following. I understand that the CPS is looking at all the evidence that's been uncovered, to see what cases they've got to prosecute people, and of course, in many cases, it will be possible to sue individuals who've done wrong. And of course, with a statutory inquiry, we could get the same sort of thing happen with the child rape gangs, and I think at least as importantly, we could get a full turning over of every rock, as it were, to see what's underneath, with regard to official collusion.
Well,
both by the police, the social workers, the council work employees, councillors, and even national politicians.
well, this is where it gets very interesting for us in many respects, because we've talked to Jane Senior on here, we've had Raja Mia, a number of people who are absolutely at the forefront of this, and it is clear it would appear that there is collusion from politicians, and this is obviously very, very concerning for people. But also, do you understand the cynicism that people have about inquiries? Because so often they tell us one thing, but nothing actually results from it. So the child abuse inquiry is a perfect example of it. So many recommendations, not one actually taken up, until Elon Musk brought up this whole issue again about grooming gangs most recently, which actually many people were grateful that he had. Yes. But do you understand the cynicism around inquiries?
I certainly do. But you've got to bear in mind that the inquiries that you're referring to are not statutory inquiries.
Correct.
And therefore they have no actual teeth. And the point about what we're trying to achieve here is to get an inquiry that does have those teeth, and that can actually literally compel under subpoena witnesses to attend. They're then cross-examined, and if they don't answer, they can be sent to prison for contempt of court. And also any documents that exist can be compelled to be produced. Now, I'll give you for instance, which applies to Maggie Oliver rather than senior. Maggie Oliver was a police officer. She was trying to run an inquiry into a grooming gang in Manchester. And we know that there was a so-called Gold Command meeting of the senior Manchester police officers, at which it was decided that they were going to drop the inquiry. Funny enough, we know who the people were that were there, but they claim to have lost the minutes of the meeting, and they won't tell. The people that were there won't tell who was the one that made the decision. Well, that's a classic example that if we got those people at a public inquiry, statutory public inquiry, they can be required to answer who made the decision, and we can get the evidence of that, and that person can then be prosecuted.
They're saying we need more Robins in the comments. Well, we do indeed, because the problem is there aren't enough standing up to be counted on this. Tell me, Robin, what was it about this that made you sort of not necessarily gravitate towards it, but take up this case in the first place?
Well, I had been thinking that the victims should be thinking about suing the perpetrators right from when we first had the first official report, and you know, when it was found that at least 1,400 girls in Rotherham alone, which is after all not a big town, had been systematically raped, abused, and pimped to the great profit of the criminals involved. And the officials had either colluded or, at the very least, covered it up. And of course, the media had done likewise. They'd covered it up as well because they must have known that it was going on, the local media. So I thought the first thing I did actually was I thought that I'd put a solicitor's inquiry advert in the Rotherham Advertiser.
Ooh.
suggesting that girls should contact and that we would sue. The thing that interested me in a way was that the Rotherham advertiser then refused to take the advert.
No.
Yes, even though it was just an advert from a solicitor for potential claimants to come forward and bring claims. So there was nothing strange about the advert in a sense. If it had been about whiplash injury for road traffic accidents, it would have got in no problem at all. But because
that tells you the depth of the complicity, doesn't it? Always round. I think so. I think so. And I think that everybody should see this image, right? Everybody should see this image. Ashgar Boston. This is the man who Robin has won this brilliant claim against, £425,000. And we need more of this, Robin. We really do, because obviously this has left a terrible scar on our nation, what has taken place. And the cover up has made it worse. And what you've just told us just horrified people in the comments. The idea that the local paper wouldn't even take the advert. Doesn't that tell us everything we need to know?
I think it does, and of course what it means is that none of the sort of informal inquiries that are being talked about, Yvette Cooper in response to getting a lot of flack over the Jess Phillips's refusal to set up the inquiry initially, in response to Oldham Council asking for a statutory inquiry. Yvette Cooper has sort of half given in to it, but it's only a sort of deflection type of decision she's made, because what she said is that she's going to have 5, or she's supporting 5 local non-statutory inquiries. These have no powers, and of course the inquiries are being given to organisations that are at the very least implicated. And they can't compel any evidence to be given. And of course, we are talking about the most appalling criminal behaviour. You can't have informal inquiries where you're and expect any sensible results where you've got serious criminal behaviour that people have been colluding in and covering up. It's just ridiculous.
It is just ridiculous. And Yvette Cooper has said quite a lot about this, hasn't she? And let us not forget, she's what's commonly referred to as a Labour grandee, which means that she's been around forever, which means that without saying, making any allegations or accusations against her whatsoever, but given that a lot of these accusations revolve around the Labour Party, there are actually accusations that votes have been in exchange for silence in certain areas when it comes to the Labour Party. Is that something you've heard?
Definitely. I mean, Dennis McShane, who was an MP in the Rotherham area, he outright said that when he first started asking about it, that he was told to keep quiet because it would impact on votes for the local Labour Party. But I think it's important to say that it isn't just in Labour areas that this has been going on. GB News has been very good at digging into this, and they have uncovered evidence that there's at least 50 towns and cities in England where there have been systematic grooming, so-called gangs of child rape, pimping. They make enormous profits, these gangs, out of the pimping of the girls. I read somewhere that they were typically making something like £250,000 a year off each girl, because they were pimping them to so many hundreds of men, of mostly Pakistani Muslim men, because the clients are also from the same community, and they were, each girl might be required to, be prostituted to 100 men over a weekend. There was one in Telford, a girl in Telford who was interviewed, who said that by the time she was 16, she had already been raped by over 1,000 men.
It's actually astonishing, isn't it? And what we keep hearing is, no, there was no cover up. There was no cultural sensitivity around this. But I don't
No, that's a
agree.
lie.
It's a lie, isn't it?
It's definitely a lie. No, there's no doubt about that whatsoever. I think it goes further than that. It's actually not just individuals being corrupt and not doing their duty, but it is actually more systematic than that, because it is a product of state multiculturalism and the way it's been applied. That the Pakistani Muslim community has got to be treated specially in a way that white English girls don't have to be. So, the white English girls are of little importance by comparison to so-called community relations, and I think that's part of what's at the back of this, and maybe the statutory inquiry will focus on that as well.
I mean, we definitely need some transparency, no doubt. This is terrifying stuff, Heldu. Yes, it is. And the thing is that it's very real. We are constantly fed, manipulated news, but this is very real. And we weren't subject to this. We weren't allowed to hear about this for a very long time. I remember talking with editors about this 10 years ago, Robin. When I was working for ITN, I was scheduled to have an appointment with Brian Gerrish from UK Column, who was doing loads of work at the time into grooming gangs, and my editors from ITN were going to meet us at a hotel, and they failed to turn up, and that was 10 years ago, and they were like, this is racist, there's a problem here. It's like, what? It's like, it's happening. We can't just say this is racist to report on it. It's happening. And
well, by the way, I just would like to say, I think actually the racism wasn't that way around. The fact is that the perpetrators were regularly saying that the girls were white whores, that they were white trash, that they were English whores, English. In other words, it was something that they were specifically focusing on them being racially different.
But
from themselves. It is the case that they did attack other groups, like the Sikhs, for example, were attacked, but the Sikhs reacted in such a way that they then moved on to English girls.
Right. And also, I think James Senior was actually saying the other week that also some boys were also attacked. And again, so the problem is of course, is a lot of the boys were shamed into not saying anything. The girls who were Sikhs or Pakistani Muslims as well were also shamed into not saying anything. So for the most part, it was only the white girls who were actually speaking up. Has that been your experience?
I'm not sure to what extent there is actually predation, as it were, on Pakistani Muslim girls.
Okay.
Because they are obviously within the community, and you would then wind up with sort of vigilante, I suppose, style response against the perpetrator.
Right. Interesting.
Whereas I think when they're predating on non-Pakistani Muslim groups, there is no pushback from their community. And so targeting others is okay. But the point that I was making really is you were talking about racism. Obviously, what I've just described is racism in any normal meaning of the expression. And one of the things that has certainly interested me as a lawyer is that despite the fact that there's clear evidence that the perpetrators were being racist in their targeting, none of them have been charged with offences that include racism, which is part of the reason why many of them have received surprisingly short sentences. So Ashgar Boston was convicted of 2 rapes of Liz when she was 14. And for that, he got 9 years imprisonment. Now, you remember that one of the rioters over Southport, there was a basket of paper or whatever that was in flames, which he pushed against a door. As far as I could see, no serious consequences flowed from that. Obviously, he was rioting. It was an offence, but he got a bigger term of imprisonment than 2 rapes of a 14-year-old girl.
Wow.
Which I think demonstrates what's going on here. That actually the authorities right up through the system are the ones that are being racist, but they're being racist against the ordinary white English people rather than racist against the minority groups, which are getting special treatment, as we see with this particular example of the horrific mass. People say industrial scale, but I mean, what does that mean? The numbers of girls. So, I think the minimum estimate that anybody's sensibly come up with is 100,000 girls.
Whoa.
The MP for Rotherham, Sarah Champion, has said 1 million girls. I think that's probably more than
so somewhere in between the two, isn't it?
Somewhere in between the two. I mean, I think in other words, you could be pretty confident that it's at least 250,000 girls that have been systematically raped and pimped, and the authorities have not only turned a blind eye and colluded with it. I mean, in some cases, outright helped it. I mean, Liz, as an example, she. Her father tried to rescue her, and he was arrested.
Oh, for goodness sake. And the problem is they're under such coercive control, these young girls, as well. It's very difficult for an adult woman to break away from a coercive relationship, much less a child who has been groomed into that. And by the way, Robin, using the expression, what was it? Child rape gangs, much more appropriate. Much more appropriate. Absolutely. I think I might already have put a link in the description to the funder. If not, I will make sure we do at the end of the stream. Thank you for joining us this morning. Very much appreciate it. Everybody, solicitor Robin TILBROOK. Have a good weekend, Robin. Take good care of yourself. Facts, people. Facts. And I know your blood is boiling out there. I'm sorry. I never like to do that. I don't ever like to engage in sensationalism, but we have to deal with facts, and facts are facts, and simple as that, right? Simple as that. Right. I want to move on to our next guest. I don't want to keep her waiting. She's a regular around here. Let's bring her in. It's Sarah NEWLYN. How are you, Sarah?
I'm well, Sonia. Thank you. How are you?
I can see a doggy in the background.
Yeah, I was going to put him out, but I sort of ran out of time, and now
I love that. We could never have my dog in the background. She would make holy hell. Yours seems really peaceful, actually. Lovely.
He's quite chill in the mornings. He's a bit snoozy in the mornings. So yeah,
exactly. Yes, Jack. The truth must out, whichever way it is, even when it makes us uncomfortable. And a lot of that truth that Robin was saying makes people uncomfortable, including me. But the truth is still the truth. Thank you, Sticky Mark.
An amazing guest, wasn't he? Really good.
He's great. He's absolutely great. And the fact that he'd already managed to get this incredible claim for almost £500,000 against a rapist is phenomenal. Because make them pay. Make them pay. Right. Thank you for joining us very much, Sarah. Loads to talk about. I want to start off with MP Mike Amesbury. And so this is an insane story, right? MP Mike Amesbury, he punched a constituent in the street, not once, not twice, repeatedly. Yeah. Absolute insanity. And then he was apparently going to jail. And this was on Monday. And then he had an appeal in very short order. I've never known an appeal to come that quickly.
Yeah,
Sarah, take it away. Tell people.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I mean, what a thing for somebody in public office to behave that way, no matter what time of night it was or whether he was approached in his personal time. It's irrelevant. He was absolutely disgusting behavior. And yeah, I mean, you as anybody shouldn't behave like that, but somebody in public office to you know, it was appalling, and it was a real attack, wasn't it? I mean, he was absolutely, yeah, you can see it there. I mean, he absolutely, you know, really went for it with the guy, you know.
Savage. There's another
It
guy
really
trying to pull
was.
him off throughout the whole thing. It was
Yeah,
absolutely savage.
appalling.
And when we hear Robin
Mhm.
talking about, you know, people, the prison sentences for some people, this
Mm.
is an absolute example of two-tier Keir, isn't it? It has to be.
100%. And anyone who says it's not is deluded or lying. Because, I mean, first of all, to be sentenced only to, was it, I think it was 10 weeks, wasn't it, initially?
Right.
Which was appalling in itself when some people have had 2 years for tweets, you know. I mean, you can't even imagine. And then, as you say, to get such a quick, I have never known such a fast appeal. Usually it takes weeks, months for appeals, right? And
Right.
suddenly that 10 weeks is no longer. And because his solicitor said that he felt shame and he felt embarrassment, I think that the solicitor argued that he, you know, he felt the embarrassment of this and that was enough punishment. Well, no, it's not enough punishment for beating one of your constituents to the ground. It's appalling behaviour. And yeah, I part of me thinks, Sonia, that this is, you know, they're kind of stress testing us. Do you know what I mean? It's this kind of, how far can we go? How much will people take before
Right.
they rise up? Because
Right.
it's the same, you know, I've written before about all these people with child abuse images on their computers. They get found with all this material, sometimes of the most, well, is there any other kind than serious, let's be honest. But you know, they categorize them, don't they? And these people walk free. They don't even get custodial sentences. And I can't help but feel that this is something like that they are pushing us and pushing us to see just how far they can go. I mean, Mike Amesbury, I can't believe that he is keeping his job, frankly. It's appalling.
Yeah, it is actually appalling. And what about the victim? Poor fellows. They
Yeah,
had an argument at a taxi rank, 2 a.m. in Amesbury's hometown, Frodsham in Cheshire on October the 26th. But what about the victim? It's
exactly.
absolutely outrageous. And I agree with you. I do feel that we're being poked and prodded on a constant basis. I mean, Hugh Edwards had category A
Yeah,
images of child abuse, right?
yeah,
And he had no custodial sentence. And we know that
exactly.
8 out of 10 people found with child abuse images do not get a custodial sentence. But
Exactly.
if you say something on social media that is problematic, you're getting banged up. So it definitely feels like we are being poked and prodded
It
into it,
really does.
doesn't
It
it?
really does. I mean, you know, to do what that Mike Amesbury has done and to keep his job. So it's like it's as if they're laughing at us. We're paying him. You know, taxpayers are paying his salary. And what's an MP's salary now? 90,000, 91,000 pounds a year. And yet he can go out in the street and beat a man who, where's the justice for that man? You know, there's absolutely none. So yeah, I can't, I just think people, there needs to be a proper, we talk about it a lot, but there needs to be a revolution. This, you know, this, otherwise it just continues this way, doesn't it? You know, they get away with everything. And what we were talking about there, I said at the time to a couple of people, when Hugh Edwards was, you know, the story broke and everything, people said that he got off because he was famous, but that's not true at all. As you said, I have catalogued in an article just a few that I went back over only, I think it was a 6-month period, and I could have written pages and pages of cases that I found where people had been received no custodial sentence at all for offences like that. And yeah, I think they are poking us, Sonia, and laughing, you know.
There's a sense of that. He was released by Judge Everett, who had previously imprisoned somebody for social media posts. And it's interesting, right? Because obviously what we'd heard was Mike Amesbury had said that this man, Mr. Fellows, had been waving his arms about and shouting and screaming. And actually, the judges said it was a good thing that there was CCTV of that instant. In reality, you told police a pack of lies, nothing more, nothing less. So on top of the assault,
Yeah,
he also lied to police.
he lied. And you know, I think when he made his case he was trying to sort of make out that he was frightened for his safety, wasn't he? He like what was the name of that MP who was murdered? The man, I forget what's his name.
What is his name? I know it was going to come to us. Well, I'm sure somebody in the
I know I should have written that down.
No, don't worry.
But he was trying to sort of make out that he was frightened for his life in some way, or frightened for his safety. And that's just, again, a lie, an out and out lie. You can see from that footage, he was not in any fear. He was just drunk and angry, and he just took it out on this guy, you know. And yeah, absolutely appalling behavior. And we're paying for it as taxpayers. We're paying his salary. He'll keep claiming his expenses, and all the while, this poor man gets no justice at all. So yeah, absolutely shocking.
David Amos is the MP. I knew that our viewers would come through. Yeah, it is shocking stuff. And the thing is that, you know, I don't know if you saw the sort of the gathering yesterday in the White House when JD Vance said to Keir Starmer's face about the lack of freedom of speech in our country. Did you see that by any chance? Because
I did, phenomenal. Yeah.
And it's all along the same lines, isn't it, really?
It is. It really is. I mean, the meeting with Trump, how embarrassing, Sonia. How embarrassing is it watching them? I mean, if anyone that...
Have a look at this image again.
Oh, don't. It's just awful, isn't it? Anyone who doesn't see these people as actors at this point is... I'm sorry, but I feel like there's no hope for them, because it's so obvious when you watch them. They're just playing a role, and they're doing what they're told to do. Keir Starmer doesn't care that he has to look like an absolute knob, really, because he's being paid handsomely for it, you know. And Trump's just playing that character, isn't he? The kind of, you know, couldn't give a monkey's kind of, you know, brave. And it's all really quite embarrassing, Sonia. Yeah, it really is.
It is. Yes, Randy. What's that? They have all the cash and assets. Oh, I've just clicked on the one that I haven't even read. Sorry about that, guys. The thing is, the comments go so quickly that sometimes when you click on something, it skips to the next one. Let us talk about the Epstein files release, because we were having a conversation about this last night as it was happening. And so what we'd heard originally was Attorney General Pam Bondi was giving it the big one the days before on US TV, and the way they're making it sound, let us bear in mind, Jeffrey Epstein was a paedophile. He was involved in the industrial rape and abuse of young people. And what we saw yesterday was a handful of American influencers who look at this. This is disgusting, the way they were behaving outside the White House. It's like, that's Libs of TikTok in the middle. That's DC Drano. These are Christian Zionist American influencers, a handful of influencers who were chosen to get these files. They're going to be released in phases. This is not transparency, is it, Sarah? What do you think?
It's not. So, yeah, I mean, I've the whole Epstein files thing, I've been sort of following it for a long time, and as we all have. And I think part of me, again, thinks it's a bit of a, I mean, he was definitely a paedophile, of course, disgusting man. But I do wonder if it's, you know, throwing a bone over there so we all attack this while we don't look at what was going on. I mean, effectively, they brought the Epstein files out. They rolled him out as this kind of villain when the Pizzagate business was going on, didn't they? And I wonder if that was sort of throwing us off the scent of, you know, they kind of debunked the whole pizza parlor business. And actually, it wasn't really debunked. It was debunked in the mainstream media. But if you look at it in reality, that was a very real situation. And I'm trying to be a bit careful here because we're obviously on YouTube. But
I got a strike on YouTube for bringing on somebody to talk about Pizzagate, by the way.
Did you?
So, yeah, you're
I'll be very careful.
Oh, yes.
I mean, that tells you what you need to know, doesn't it, really?
Yeah.
But I think the timing of that was very interesting because, as I say, they kind of brought Epstein in as this villain character, revealing all of this around that time when they were trying to stop people talking about PG. Exactly. So I think there's definitely some of that going on. We will get nobody. I'm convinced that nobody will. I mean, look at that.
This is a typical example of phase one, redacted.
Exactly.
Look at the state of that.
It's honestly crazy, isn't it? But I think they are. I think they want us all on that scent, don't they? Because you know, all the talk now around Gene Hackman dying and what's gone on there, and is it linked to this? But actually, all that while, the real stuff is going on, Sonia, and we know it's going on. And, they don't let us talk about it. And we're the people, whenever you mention anything along those lines, the conspiracy theory term label gets slapped on you. And I've had people laugh at me for suggesting that there's actually truth to these stories of, basements and ceremonies, and people literally laugh at you, but the evidence is there. It's like people are blinded by, I think it is mainstream media, which is what these Epstein files I think are going to be very useful for, because it will keep people focused on that, when actually in reality they're not going to give us anything on that. They're not going to, we know who went to Jeffrey Epstein. It's not particularly secret, if we're honest. I mean, we know he was best friends with, there's plenty of photos of Donald Trump with him, isn't there?
Plenty.
He was pals with everybody. So really, I think it's a bit of a sort of a false flag here. It's kind of, let's keep everybody focused on that. And as I say, we know who his friends were. We know who went to Epstein Island, and let's face it, it's all of them. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a please look over here while you don't look over here.
Plebs happy, do you think? Is it the whole idea
I think there is. I do.
Yeah,
the Twitter was was absolutely, for the last few days, it's been, I hate those accounts where people say, wait till tomorrow, you're going to see, and it never happens. It absolutely never happens. Look at those, there he is with just about, you can find a photo of Jeffrey Epstein with just about any celebrity out there. So I don't think there's any secrets here to be revealed. We know what went on there. Some of the girls have spoken about what went on there, but nothing's ever happened before, despite that. So yeah, I think it's all a bit of a falsehood, really, and I think we're being led down the path a bit with it.
Gosh, I'm so shocked. I think Simon gets it spot on here. Peter Mandelson was sorted. Peter Mandelson, of course, was also a mate of Jeffrey Epstein, and he's now, of course, been made the UK ambassador to America. So it's almost like keeping it all in, right? Keeping it all in.
What's George Carlin said once, didn't he? It's one big club and you ain't in it. And I think, all of these stories, you can bring it all back to that one line. They are all one big club and we're not in it. And you sell your soul to be part of that club, and I'm quite happy not to be in it myself.
Same. Absolutely. What were you saying about Gene Hackman? Because I do want to talk about him, not necessarily with you, but I'm just interested. You were saying that people are talking about links. What was that?
Yeah, so as soon as that kind of happened, because it was they revealed it in a very peculiar way, didn't they, to say that he had died alongside his wife and dog, but that there was no foul play suspected. That's an odd thing to say, right? Two people and a dog don't just die randomly, so that it set people talking about, was this because the Epstein files were going to be released? Was he going to be on it, and could they not take the shame? So was it some kind of pact? Whether it was or not, I don't know. But actually, there's a really good guy channel on YouTube called I think it's called Ones with Eyes to See or something like that. He's an American guy, and he really breaks things down a lot, and suddenly you think, oh yeah, that makes sense. And he was on yesterday talking about this and saying, look, they're going to make you think that this is something, and they're going to make you think that he had something to hide, something to be frightened of with the Epstein files coming out. So I think there's, and he goes as far as to say that whether the guy's dead or not is kind of irrelevant. He may have just been moved to an island somewhere where nobody knows who he is, but just to play the part. And again, I think it feeds into this whole business of the files and getting everybody sort of fascinated and waiting with bated breath. And all the while, you're not going to get anything. And all the while, the real stuff continues, and they get away with it. I don't know. Sorry, I'm going off a bit of a tangent here.
Because it's bizarre. Yes, exactly, Sally. They were in separate rooms. That shocked me as well. The dog was in the kennel, so that couldn't really have been carbon monoxide. So that was weird as well, because obviously that's one of the rumours that's going around about it. They were also mummified, so the chances are they'd probably lain there for at least a couple of weeks, right?
Exactly. It's just a very strange story, and whenever they throw you something like this, they're not giving, they're not putting it out there with any view to shutting any conversation down. They know very well that that's going to cause a lot of speculation and a lot of people to go, what, that doesn't sound right, so yeah, I always think it's worth, as soon as I heard it, I thought, okay, so what's the story here? What are they trying to say? Where are they trying to lead us? Because that's what the news is, isn't it, Sonia? Really, we know that mainstream news is, they tell you what they want you to know. So, and again, that brings me back to the Epstein files, because I think if they ever were going to do anything with that and charge anybody and actually, do anything with the Epstein files, we wouldn't know about them. I think that, they've told us of the existence of these files because they want us to know and keep us talking. And the reality is, I think what they don't, I think it brings me back to, am I allowed to say the word pizza again? I won't get a sand, will I? But I think that was a true, that was kind of accidentally discovered, really, by members of the public, and I think that terrified them, and they had to shut it down quickly. And I think that the Epstein files was a useful way for them to do that. So yeah, it's my view. I may be completely wrong, but
and we may all be completely wrong. Who knows? Because we're given so little information. The thing I detested yesterday watching, because first of all, it was theatre, absolute theatre.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they were all releasing the same tweets. Like today, I met with President Trump, VP JD Vance, AG Pam Bondi, and FBI Director Kash Patel in the Oval Office. They handed me a binder copy of the Epstein files. This is the most transparent administration in American history. If it was the most transparent, they would have just released the whole tranche, right? And that's transparency. Not
it would be, they would have released it all, but also, Sonia, there wouldn't have been this fanfare of months of we're going to do this, well, just do it. You don't spend months saying we're going to do this and we're going to, it's an embarrassment. It really is, that people actually believe that this is going to be a real thing. No, not one person will go to prison because of this.
100%.
Yeah. So it's shocking. I'm just disgusted with the world some days, Sonia, and I have to watch your show to keep me going.
Oh, thank you. Well, you've been a marvelous guest. We've very much enjoyed having you with us this morning. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Always a pleasure, Sonia.
Sarah NEWLYN from the Critically Thinking blog, and I've already put a link in the description, so please do check her out, including the piece that she wrote about Donald Trump, right? About Donald Trump is not your savior. Do you want to give us a little brief overview of that before you leave us?
Yeah, thanks, Sonia. Yeah, it was just, the people sort of going absolutely bonkers when, when he was inaugurated, and this host of executive orders he put out there. And I had people obviously saying to me, oh, you must be delighted because of the trans, I've written a lot about the trans issues, and because of what he said about women in sport and, the treatments for trans children, etc. And, on the very surface, of course, I was. That's what we've been wanting. That's what we've been working towards, isn't it? But at the same time, I knew straight away, well, it's a cover for all the other things that they're bringing in under, while everybody's celebrating that, what else are they bringing in? And of course, there was the cancer vaccines, always with the vaccines. So it's just a piece about not sort of being hoodwinked into thinking he is anybody's savior. There are no saviors. We can only save ourselves, Sonia, and we've got to keep fighting for it. So.
Hallelujah.
And do you mind if I just say as well, I am doing a massive revamp of the website as we speak. So within a few days, it's going to be launching the new fancier version, and it will look much nicer. So
wonderful. Of course you can say that. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Sarah NEWLYN. Take good care of yourself.
Thanks,
Sarah.
Sonia.
Lovely
Speak
to see
soon.
you this morning. Definitely.
Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye. Yes, I love having her on. Suicide. What's that, Mel? Suicide pact usually finds people dead in each other's arms as opposed to in different rooms, right? Kat said they give us the illusion of choice. Here are your choices, not who do you choose. Fact. These are facts. And by the way, even though you cannot hear the audio on this, because I don't think you can see what she's actually saying. This was Yvette Cooper 2 days before. This is this week. Yvette Cooper, right, talking about the new police and crime bill, and see what she has to say. And then obviously 2 days later, a former Labour MP, now an independent, gets off, right? This is what she had to say. Check this out. No one is above the law, no matter who they are. That's what she said. No one is above the law, no matter who they are. Thank you for that, Yvette. But we know that's a lie. We know that's a lie because otherwise Prince Andrew would at least been questioned. Yes, he would. We know it's a lie. We do. What's that? Or true. Read the new network state. Well, what's that? So many distractions. Randy, you sent me an email the other day. You said with a video, there was no video with it, sweetheart. You didn't send me the video. Do you want to send it again? The lesser of two evils is still evil. And lie is what they do best. Oh, yes, indeed it is. I'm going to be welcoming in my next guest shortly. I want to just get some images ready. Thank you, Armand. I appreciate that. I just want to make sure that I've got these all ready and they're not leaping. Oops, they are going to leap onto my... Right, I'm not going to bring them in just yet. Right, what do I want to talk about? Well, it's interesting. On the day that America released attempted to release phase 1 of the Epstein files, there was also America intervention on Andrew and Tristan Tate, lifting travel restrictions, which enabled them to fly to Florida on private jet. People are not happy at all. This is so wrong that Donald Trump as administration has intervened with the Tates leaving alleged British victims desperate. And let us not forget that the two men, so first of all, right, the two men, Andrew and Tristan Tate, also face charges, including accusations of rape and human trafficking in the UK. And a court in Bucharest has ruled that they can be extradited to Britain once a final decision is reached in their case in Romania. The Romanian Special Prosecutor's Service investigating the Tate brothers said in a statement that the case against the two has not been dropped and they will be returned to Romania at the end of March. But nonetheless, people are absolutely furious, and so they should be. Matthew Jury, who represents the British women, says, as the representative of British women who have filed criminal complaints of rape and sexual assault against Andrew Tate, this is my statement on today's news. The news that pressure by the Trump administration has led to Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan being allowed to leave Romania by its authorities is equal parts disgusting and dismaying. There is clear evidence to support the allegations against Tate that he is one of the world's worst human traffickers and serial rapists. That the US government would choose to lobby for his release is absurd, but sadly, given its actions over the past month, perhaps unsurprising. Any suggestion that the Tates will now face justice in Romania is fanciful, says Jury. The UK authorities must take immediate steps to secure their extradition to the UK to face charges for the offences of human trafficking and rape they are alleged to have committed in this jurisdiction. Now, always, it must be innocent unless proven guilty. But here's the thing with the Tates is they've told you what they do. They've told everybody what they are about. The fact that they have backing from the Trump administration is fairly shocking. It's fairly shocking. And why is that? Was that because Alina Haber, who is one of Trump's legal advisors, fangirled all over Andrew Tate on a podcast the other week? Absolutely outrageous. Lisa said the Tates disgusting humans. This just shows men indoctrinated by them that women are worth nothing and you can get away with it. Yeah. Crafty Kim makes a point. Well, if the Tates get sent here, they will get off. Yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, only allegations, but worth noting nonetheless. But I just thought, what you're trying to tell me that Jeffrey Epstein, who was known as a human trafficker, right, before he didn't kill himself, and now the Tates who are also accused of the same, all on the same day. What? Simon said the Tates became popular with men, in quotes, because of the disgusting LGBTQ crap. Gina said the Tates are not my cup of tea. Mine either, Gina. Not my cup of tea, coffee or water. Not at all. Never will be. It's horrible. And there was also a response from the US Center of Exploitation. They are furious. It says it seems clear the US intervened in Romania to assist the Tate brothers, who are being prosecuted for sex trafficking over 35 women, including minors. This is a slap in the face to all the victims of the Tate brothers, especially the US victim, who is not being protected by her country. The alleged victim, the US victim, is in Florida, and Governor Ron DeSantis is not happy. He came out, he gave a press conference. Charles wants to know, why is their prosecution taking so long? Well, in part because it involves a different country, but also because when you have money, you can delay proceedings, sometimes until they literally fall off, right? Yes, they are not the alpha males. No, they're not. Yeah, takes the P. Absolutely, it does. Yeah, some very strange stuff taking place. But that's not okay. That's not okay. And can I just say, what a huge volume of press the lawsuit between actors Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni has garnered. A number of you have contacted me. It's not my bag. It's not the kind of thing that I'm interested in at all. But people have contacted me saying there is a problem with the attacks on Lively and there is media manipulation involved. Candace Owen is particularly enamoured with the case and reports on it constantly, and always from Baldoni's side. Talking of which, what is happening with Owen's investigation, in which she has claimed that French President Emmanuel Macron's wife is actually a man? I don't know whether Brigitte is a man or not, but what I do absolutely know, and we must not lose sight of, is she was a teacher who groomed a schoolboy. And that, to me, makes Brigitte Macron a predator, whether male or female. And that is definitely something we should absolutely not lose sight of. And I can see that my next guest is here. Simon said, dude, got ya people. I now have a pet crow. I called him Swoop, says Morrigan. Morrigan, is that real? Hoping Peter is okay, so be happy. Keep praying, people, keep praying. Miracles do happen. I hear you, Michelle. I do hear you. I absolutely do hear you. Justice for the poor, injustice for the rich, right? Yeah, Marco, I mean, I've been talking about this predatory behavior for a very long time, because I couldn't believe that these people were, she's like, obviously the Macrons, obviously on the world stage. And it's like, can we all remember how these people were apparently said to have met? Now, if that is a cover story, the cover story is also appalling. Absolutely appalling. A groomer, right? A rapist. Absolutely. He's not a pet. He's free as a bird, but he follows me when I walk the dog. I see. Got you. I want to welcome in my next guest now. Here he is. Let's bring him in. Hello, Peter. How are you?
Very good. Thank you, Sonia. Never better, in fact.
Wonderful to have you with us. Peter Cook, you are, if I remember correctly, and please correct me, an engineer by trade. Is that correct?
Yes. And that's very important, Sonia, because what engineers have to do is get at truth for all our safety. If you're a politician or you work in education, you don't have to get at truth. You can wing it. And we all know what's been happening. So I'm here today to talk about human quest for truth.
I love that.
It's easy, isn't it? Well, something true. What you see must be true, isn't it? Not so easy. So let's wake us all up.
There's a science behind it, isn't there? As you, as an engineer, knows. And that was how you approached me. And I was like, that's fascinating, because I'm really interested in the truth, however it comes at me. Even truth that I find uncomfortable, I'd rather have the truth, because truth has its own purity attached to it. I don't know if that is necessarily a scientific position. But Peter, where would you like to start on this?
Well, let's start with the first time that human beings got at truth, which was outside culture, tradition, and norms, none of which are truths. What's true is you follow your norms, which is simply copy what happens most often around you, no matter what it is. Don't ask the question, what is it that I'm doing? Just, it's what I call look and do. Then there's culture and norms. And tradition is the one that catches us all out. Oh. If a norm gets into tradition and culture, It's not a truth, but we all do it as a truth. So nobody goes to university and says, we all study the same matter in the same universe. Why are we all going into isolated departments?
Ooh.
Because we haven't got at fundamental truth. So I'm going to put that right today.
Love that.
A little disclaimer in. Sonia hasn't invited me on here because she endorses me. She doesn't know what I'm going to say today.
I have no idea.
No, so she's in the same position as everybody else. So let's go back 200 BC. So the first time we've got a truth outside of culture, tradition, and norms. Euclid's Elements.
Right. I have imagery here that you want me to use. Is there anything that you want me to use at this stage? Please point me in that direction.
Well, let's just ask the question. Let's establish competence. Why am I telling people about truth? Where's the competence? Let's establish that. I used to be a non-destructive tester engineer. When I first left school at 16, I had to go and establish truth on things like the Humber Bridge. I did all the welding inspection on the Humber Bridge. That puts into you something that you cannot make a mistake. I used to inspect aircraft engine parts. And then I got involved in racing motorcycles, and I loved it because it's all competence, it's truth. There can be no winging it if you're racing motorcycles. You will be killed.
Is this an appropriate image for this moment?
That's the one. So that was written about me because I became a problem solver in engineering, and I found there was always a logical answer. So this was written about me because I was never beaten by any problem, not once.
Ooh.
And I solved all the problems which caused the British motorcycle industry, which was the biggest on the earth, to completely collapse. And I solved them all because I was outside the culture and the tradition, which says we do things like this, and it couldn't see anything else. And that started to wake me up to what a truth is and how we get blindsided by a reality which is true, but there's also another truth. And then I became an expert witness in courts of law, which you have to get a truth. And I got unstitched by somebody who tricked me with language tricks, and that was very painful. So I decided to develop techniques to get at language truths or language problems which are sitting in front of you. And because we think in language, if you can't say it, you can't think it.
Ooh, that's true.
That's a painful one. So if you could put up the image, Sonia, of the sportsman.
I can indeed. Let me bring that in. And just bear with me. We're having some, here we go. Let's do that. There you go. That will bring us up. There you go.
So
Cool.
This is one of my favorite pictures. If I say to everybody, what's the truth? What's happening here? Well, isn't that easy to answer? No, it's not. If you'd lived in the Amazon jungle all your life and never played any sport, you wouldn't know what this was. We only understand what this is because it's part of the culture.
That's right. Oh, well said. Yes.
He's throwing a lump of metal. Nobody's laughing. Everybody treats it as normal. Oh, yes, of course we do that. We don't. We've got used to it. So norms catch us out. So the first time human beings try to establish truth outside of that is Euclid's Elements.
I've got another one here. There we go.
Now, this book, written around 200 BC, gets at truth because the first mathematical proofs are established in this book, and they're based on language. Remember that one. Mathematical proofs, something we can all agree, no matter what culture or tradition or norms, is something that's true. Every proof in that book is true today. So if humanity wants to follow a book, we should have considered this one. It's still taught in universities, but there's a problem, as there always is. The incompleteness theorem in mathematics showed there are some things which cannot be proved mathematically using language and proofs. You can't do it. So we have to look for something else. The next time we realize we want to get at truth, we start to establish scientific experiments. If you do an experiment, no matter who does it, where you do it, you always get the same result. We can say we've got a truth. So we've now got two ways to establish truth: mathematics, scientific experiments, but there's always a but, isn't there?
There is.
If we look at this book here, physics, surely it's all the mathematics correct, established beyond all doubt to unprecedented accuracy. All the science is correct.
Am I bringing this up now? Is that accurate?
That's the one. Thanks, Sonia. So if all the mathematics is correct and all the science is correct, why couldn't this book be presented to a court of law as truth? Well, if you've got different witnesses telling different stories, you haven't established truth. And in this book, you've got three different witnesses all telling different stories. That's the biggest problem with physics, is you've got different kinds of physics which tell different stories. So I'm going to put that right today by just changing language. That's all it is. Very, very simple. You will all be able to understand, because there's no technical change. There's no change. I'm not touching the physics. I'm not touching the mathematics. I'm just going to present it in different language. How simple is that? Very, very important that this gets corrected. Now, the language, we can pinpoint it very specifically, and I don't do this by myself. I do this with other people who twice a week hold me to account, and I hold them to account, and it's brutal, and that's the way it's done. There's one witness in this book who has a story which is isolated from every other witness, and that is gravity. It's the only member of general relativity. It's isolated from every other part of physics. Something's wrong. Can't have that. One witness telling a story which doesn't fit with any other part of the story. So let's correct that. And what we'll see is that one language correction corrects everything. So here we go. What is gravity? Why does it sit by itself? Because the cause of action, the language, we say curvature of space-time, and it's the only one. But that's not what gravity is. The language is misleading. It's incomplete. It doesn't mean it's not correct. Space does curve. But what about the curvature of matter? Isn't the Earth curved into a sphere? Of course it is. So if I state in language, gravity is the fact that matter and space can communicate. They talk to each other. If they can't communicate, they can't have a relationship, relativity. Because they can communicate, they must exchange information. Must. So I'm going to use that, the exchange of information, as the foundations of everything in science. Because I can use the exchange of information to describe the Earth as a magnetic body and a magnetic field. Suddenly I've unified them, and I've brought gravity in from the cold and sat it beside the Earth as a magnetic body and a magnetic field, and the Earth as an electrical body an electrical field. It's all the same. And all I've done is change the language, nothing else. And I'm going to use that fix to continue and connect physics with biology. Really? Really. This book here, I think we've got a copy of this book here. It's a different one you've got, Sonia.
It's not this one, is it?
That's the one.
Okay. Chaos and non-linear dynamics.
Nobody knows what this is, and yet it's all proved by experiment. No scientist on the earth suspected that this mathematics and behavior was going to appear on our computer screens. Nobody knew it was there. And that's because you can't look at the components in the chaotic system, measure them, and determine what they're going to do, like physics. So I'm just going to read to you a little passage from this book. He says, we should reflect on this agreement between theory and experiment. It's hard science. It's the physical behavior of matter. We should feel a sense of awe and wonder that there is some quantitative link between these experimental results and a simple mathematical iterated map. Boom. That was the most important thing that was written this century. And why didn't anybody suspect this? Well, another sentence. These features, and that means chaotic features, seem to be largely independent of the physical, chemical, or biological details of the system under investigation. That is an important thing to say. That this is physical reality. Everything's determined by properties of components. This is physical reality, which transcends the physical.
And it's still the truth.
And it's still the truth. So now I've got to put these two together using the same language.
Am I bringing in another image here, Peter?
Right.
Am I?
No, not just yet, Sonia. Well,
okay.
So let's put them together. The exchange of information, cause of action. Every part of a chaotic system has to exchange information with every other part. So I can now say, I can put this, which is another set of fundamental laws in the universe, on top of this. And I'm saying on top because you can have physics by itself, a harmonic pendulum, two bodies in space. That's where physics comes to a terminus. It stops. That was stated by Stuart Kauffman, evolutionary biologist. Physics comes to a terminus at just two bodies in space, the best kept secret in science. It doesn't work for three bodies in space, the three-body problem you would have heard of. Let me explain in simple language. Two bodies in space move around each other in an ellipse. That's stated in here. Three bodies in space, the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon, don't move in an ellipse. The Earth and the Moon wobble around each other once a month. That's not an ellipse. So what do? Keep that quiet. Don't tell anybody that the solar system is not allowed in a physics book. Boom. I've said it.
What? The solar system is not allowed in a physics book?
Because three bodies in space do not move in ellipses. They wobble. Every time planets pass each other, they wobble. Wobbles are not in physics books. It's physics.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see. Wobbles are not in physics books. Right, got you.
You can't have a wobble as an ellipse. They're different.
So we're not told the truth. These physics books are not telling us the truth. Is that what
they're telling the truth? What they're doing, they're holding back information to what in the book is true. The ellipse is in the book. That's true. What it doesn't tell you don't mention it, is that reality doesn't move in ellipses. Some comets will do, but the solar system is all harmonized based on the mathematics of music. That's not physics. It's pure mathematics. And the universe is comprised of things which are purely mathematical, like space. It has no physical properties or positive and negative charge on the electron. That's not physics. The physics is the charge on the electron is 1.6 times 10 to the minus 19 of a coulomb. The minus and plus are pure mathematics. The universe is both. It's paradoxical. I went to live in Taiwan because I realized I had to learn to think in paradoxes, because the universe is driven by paradoxes. It even has a name in physics. It's called complementarity. Everything is driven by something else. It's regulated. We live in paradoxes. We can't see reality. We see the shot put without seeing the universal reality. That person is just fulfilling a compulsion to obey a norm and tribalism, get in a team and compete. We can't switch it off.
So we only get a snapshot at any moment in time as opposed to the whole picture, right?
That's it. That's
right.
it. That's it.
Right.
So our snapshots, we have to stop saying that they're truths.
Oh,
The
right.
truth, there's three different truths at the same time for us. There's your truth, which says just copy what everybody's around you doing. There's a scientific reason for that. If you look at human beings, we have no natural weapons. That means unless we work together, the animal kingdom would have gobbled us up.
Right.
We also have to develop language. Now, remember I said everything works in pairs. Nothing works by itself. We have to have language because to problem solve, we've got to think. And we think in language. And language makes more ideas. And the ideas help us to solve problems, which create more language. Each generates the other. That principle brings into existence the very first structures in the universe, stars. They're not made of gravity. They're made of a relationship of gravity squeezing together atomic reactions, which become an atomic bomb. And it's held together by gravity. So it's a relationship between quantum mechanics and general relativity acting against each other. They become stable. They regulate each other. So that is a blueprint for safe social systems. Nobody must get control.
Oh, okay. Where does truce come into this, Peter?
Right. The truth is, because we can't see, we have our own personal truth, all of us.
Oh, no, truce. Sorry, I brought in this
truth.
image. Yes.
Right. This is very important. Thank you, Sonia. This here is truth. If you would have asked these two people, what do you want to do now? They would have said, go home. The truth is, somebody had control and had the authority to say, if you don't fight, we'll shoot you. That is coming to an end on the earth now. This is the most important time in human history because that authority is collapsing. And you're part of this, Sonia, and you've been part of this for a long time.
Oh, I hope you're right that it's collapsing because
it is collapsing. Because
really?
what I'm doing today is I'm waking up humanity and saying, for the first time ever, we have an understanding of nature based on a real truth. We can now ask all the university departments to speak to each other because there are common principles which have now been well established and are going to be published. They're being printed at this minute. Everybody can understand them. The university departments all study the same matter in the same universe, and it will very quickly become a norm, common sense, that we all talk to each other in universities.
I mean, that's very optimistic. I like that. It's very positive. The problem is, I've been in newspapers and media for so long, Peter, that I realise how deeply propagandised against that we are, and what is visited on people, that I'm not even sure that even if people see the truth, they can recognise it. That's the problem.
That is the problem, Sonia. That if we get to a situation where the public, who can understand everything that I'm saying, I haven't used any technical language. That's another trick, by the way. If I start using technical language, I'm doing it for a reason. It means I'm in this position of authority in my nice, cozy job. I can use language you don't understand, and I put you down and hold you in that position.
Right.
That's just a trick.
Yeah, exactly. So, control.
It's control. I've learned to do it, and because sections of society have learned to do this, but now what's exposing it is the exchange of information, the same language that corrects everything. It's YouTube, and it's that language which has now been changed, which is going to change the whole of humanity's future for a safe option. The public can choose what they want. Do they want to be controlled, or do they want to be given an understanding that nobody gets control? Everybody regulates everybody else. You have to be good at something to be a useful part of a society. A society is a natural system.
Are we in a frequency battle?
I'm not sure, Catherine, if we're in a frequency battle. The word frequency would take a program all of its own, but yes, frequency is all part of it. So basically, the universe consists of three kinds of energy: units, waves, and fields. That means fields in space, waves in space, and units, matter. And waves and matter, they can swap over at the atomic level, and at the physical level, you get waves in physical matter, air, and sound waves, and water waves. It's all mixed up, but basically that's all been sorted out. I had to do that not as part of any establishment who will crush me.
Right, because they'll have their own agendas. Got you. Peter, before you leave us, anything that you want to make sure that people know about what it is you're saying? Because my mind is frankly absolutely blown, right? I don't claim to understand everything that you've just said. It sounds absolutely fascinating. And I absolutely know that truth resonates at a high vibration, it would appear, because you can feel it, can't you? Your solar plexus knows when you receive the truth, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
Anything you want to leave us with?
Well, that's what common sense is.
Mm-hmm.
And we are now, this pivotal moment in history only happens once. There's mathematics behind it, and it's called Zipf's law. Mathematicians will know that. And now we have to take responsibility for getting truth and using it scientifically, which means nobody has control.
Ooh. I like the sound of that. That's a beautiful way to end. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I am absolutely fascinated. It's one of those things that I'm going to have to listen again to, though, Peter, definitely. But there's nothing wrong in extending your mind, right? And in having your mind blown. Nothing at all.
Beautiful. Thanks very much, Sonia. Really
Pleasure
appreciate
to have you with us. Take good care, everybody. Peter Cook. Wonderful to have him with us.
Bye now.
Thank you. Lovely to have you with us. Yes, my mind is like, wow, people. Absolutely wow. Thank you, Peter. Yes, I know I said I'm going to be leaving at 10:30, and you beautiful people giving me hints here. Oh, you are absolute stars, aren't you? I can pull it on a little bit longer, just a little bit longer, right? A little bit longer. Look, I have to say this because I'm absolutely appalled about this. I think this is actually really unacceptable. I'm absolutely appalled to hear GB News host Patrick Christys refer to a group of Gazan women and children as monsters. I saw it with my own eyes. This is completely unacceptable, bigoted language, and this is where hate comes from. And I'm not surprised, given who finances GB News, frankly, as outlined by my guest, Dr. Ursula Edgington, on last Friday's show. These are horrible Zionists who are absolutely part of dividing up British society, but calling children and women monsters is completely unacceptable. And there's people are very, very angry, very, very angry. He made no mention, of course, the 14,500 plus Gazan children killed by Israel since the start of the war. And I am absolutely aware, right, that there's all manner of stories that we hear. Okay, all manner of stories, but calling women and children, we don't know anything about these people. That's not okay. That's not okay. Barbarians and monsters, next generation of Islamists, pro-Jew slaughter, pro-Hamas. If we let them into the UK, there'll be lots of dead bodies, right? Now, I'm not suggesting that we should have any more people coming into the UK at all, but human beings like that, don't be calling them monsters. That's disgusting. They don't see them as human, hope, love, and peace. I'm absolutely disgusted with that. Truly, truly disgusted. It's absolutely unacceptable language. Unacceptable language. I was actually like, what? It is. I'm sorry, Maria. It is hate speech. It absolutely is. It's unacceptable. Unacceptable. Right. And just to say thank you so much as ever to all my donators this week. Ashley, Jean, Colin, Pip and Pippa. Pip and Pippa. They're a couple, it would appear to be. And also, I just opened an account yesterday on Blue Sky. I'm at soniapoulton.bluesky.social. I've posted nothing on there, right? I've posted nothing on there. And so, but please come follow me on there. I want to get away from X. I hate X. I do. I just hate it these days. It's horrible. And have a good meeting. Thank you, Lenticular Cloud. I want to finish though. Good News Friday. Good News Friday. I have a story that I want to share with you. And let me bring up some imagery for that, because I think that's important. And thank you for understanding that I need to get away to a meeting. I truly appreciate that. But I want to cover this story because it's lovely. And we need some good stuff, don't we, people? We need some good stuff. Now I just have to find it. Find what I've done with it. Here we go. This is lovely. Okay. So a 94-year-old woman from San Diego has reunited with the man she saved as a baby. Let me tell you this story. As I say, it is absolutely lovely. So what happened was this woman rescued a drowning toddler from a pool, and she's just met him for the second time around. First time was when she rescued him, and the second time 64 years later. And so the man is Ben Colwell. He's now 66. Barbara Ribeiro is now 94. She was Barbara Urban back then. It was 1961. It made the front pages of the San Diego Sentinel. And I absolutely thank you, Gwyneth. I truly appreciate you. And I absolutely love the idea that they came together, because what had happened was she was a neighbor, and the child, he was only 21 months old. He'd gone missing. He'd wandered away from the block. They were having a party. He'd wandered away from the block. He fell into a pool. And Ribeiro described the scene of Colwell's body down at the bottom of the pool as scary, frightening. They thought he was dead. And she jumped in. She pulled him out. She performed both mouth to mouth and CPR under instruction, and revived this 21-month-old child. Anyway, they've met again, him as an adult, a very serious adult, and her in her 90s. And I absolutely love stuff like that. I just love it. It touches my heart so much. What's that, lovely people? Some very thought-provoking things today, as always. So much to consider about the reality of gravity. It is righteous. It's a lovely story, Fred. I absolutely love it. And Colwell is a business owner. He's a father of 2 in his own right. He said, yeah, the only thing that I ever heard someone say is, I think it was my mum telling me that when you guys found me, there wasn't any bubbles coming up. No one knew how long I had been down there. They thought the child was dead. And she revived him. Anyway, they've met up again recently. I absolutely love that, because none of us know how long we have on this earth. I think I've got an image of them meeting up. Let me just see if I have, which would be lovely to show you. Well, I thought I had, but you know how these things go. Sometimes they're there and sometimes they're not when you look for them. But either way, the point being is that I think stories like this are really important, because last week when I said on social media, tell me your good news stories, I didn't get one response, not one single response, because we're absolutely drowning constantly in negativity and bad news. And I think that there is also a truth in beauty. And I think that something like this woman was, she didn't think about her own safety. She got this child out, and she just, did the right thing, as we all should do. All good things. You do bears a seed. I don't know what that means. Nearly lost our 18-month-old in a jacuzzi. Dear me. Thank you, Morrigan. I appreciate that. Thank you all. So lovely, people. I am out of here today. I know it's only 10:35, but needs must and all of that. And I just want to say thank you all for being here today. Please, prayers for Peter Hyatt at this stage, unless we hear different. And it's difficult in a situation like this. And the reason why it's difficult in a situation like this is because these communities aren't necessarily, somebody like Peter Hyatt, the mainstream media wouldn't necessarily cover Peter's passing or his illness or any of that. And so we have to rely on a community of people to come up with that information. And sometimes they don't always get it right. Thank you, Sid. I totally appreciate that. I appreciate you all. I appreciate you all. Have a beautiful day. Absolutely. Priscilla, gorgeous Priscilla. Thank you all for being here on the live chat. Thank you, of course, to our mods as ever. We're back on Monday. Have a tremendous weekend. Is it a new moon today? Does anybody know if it's a new moon? With eyes to see, ears to hear, and sense to speak truth. Wake up, Mother England. Indeed. Thank you too, Hope. Love you all. Thank you, Vanessa. Love you all. I will see you Monday. And in the words of the genius, let me take this off the screen. In the words of the genius, Dr. Seuss, today you are you. That is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. Go forth, people, and show people how very you are. I shall see you Monday. Love you lots. Take good care of yourself.